Scarlet Moon Creations, and I'm back with another video. This one is a continuation with the series from the YouTube Pagans Challenge, and as you know, I'm following the letters of the alphabet with that one, and today we're doing the letter C, and I decided to do Coven. This idea actually came to me last night. I was gonna do something completely different. But I don't know, thinking about being in a coven versus being solitary, or being joining a group of witches that like to circle together occasionally but are not a coven. Um, I don't remember why I was thinking about that, but I was also thinking about how kind of people in both camps think of the other and how it's really not what either side thinks. And so I decided, why not, share, I guess, my experience with being in a coven. So I've been solitary a lot longer, or I was solitary a lot longer than I've been in the coven. Um, so my good feelings might change in the future, but I don't think so. Just I'm a pretty positive person, and it's fairly easy for me to look at the bright side of things, not ignoring the negatives, just extracting the knowledge and the good feeling and leaving the negativity behind. So even if things go downhill, and again I really doubt it, and I'll explain in a minute, um, it's I'll probably have a mostly positive things to say about covens. So before I get into my personal experience of my coven, I wanted just to very briefly and quickly explain what a coven is, and know that this is kind of really general and generic, and a little bit tinted with my own personal uh, opinion of what a coven is. Just a little tinge, a little droplet of my opinion. But yeah, so coven, the idea of a coven as it stands is it's a neo-pagan witchcraft term. The term coven is basically used just for the most part amongst witches and those who use witchcraft. There are other terms for groups and other pagan communities and traditions. The dictionary says it's a gathering of witches, and that's really, really, really basic and general and not exactly true. It goes deeper than that. A coven is usually a group of witches, a gathering of witches. Those witches are all practicing the same tradition, the same style together. And each member of the coven has had to be initiated into said coven, so it's not just show up and we're coven members. There's a ritual to bring you into the coven to make you an official member. It's similar to like secret societies. I think some of that is drawn from that kind of high magic, ceremonial magic area of the occult, but not completely. I'll say that the coven is usually led by an individual or two people. Like, for example, some witchcraft traditions, there's a high priest and priestess. Some, particularly in Wicca, there only led by a high priestess and the high priest assists kind of thing. There are other traditions where it's the opposite. I'll get into more of that later. So yeah, the leadership, what they're called, who they are, and why they're a leader depends on the tradition. Some family traditions, it's like the head of household, basically. So yeah. Beyond, I guess, other than that, I'll say covens usually practice their craft privately, hence the initiation, and why I kind of made that analogy, that comparison to secret societies. And there's not really very many open rituals, open meaning, anyone can show up and join kind of thing. No, it's just for the initiated, though there are special occasions. So yeah, that's what a coven is. I want to talk really quick also about a circle, just so you know, like, what the difference is from a coven. A circle, in that definition, the definition I'm about to give right now, is not, again, the hard and fast rule amongst everyone who uses it, but it's a good all-purpose word for the definition. And it's like a circle of witches, or maybe even a circle of pagans, with different paths, practices. Membership is more fluid. It could just be a group of friends, and if we get a new friend and then who is interested in the same things that we're doing in a particular ritual, then they can join, and that's fine. A circle can be open once upon a time. Back in the day, I'm making this seem like it's forever ago. It wasn't that. Wow, it has been quite some time now. I'm thinking about it. But 5 or 6 years ago, I was in a circle. It was more like a pagan study group, and they had completely open rituals, for the most part, open to the public, and anyone can show up and join. But there was like this core group of us who were specifically studying different types of paganism, and that would show up regularly. And what they like to call it was like a group of solitaries. So we can all do our own thing completely, but they can join in if they wish. So yeah, a circle could be just for a ritual here and there, like for to celebrate the seasons or the full moons or the new moons. Or just like, you know what, we're all solitary witches, but we are all kind of feeling we need some type of magic that's similar, and we want to increase our power, so let's work together and have this particular magical ritual, and there we go. It's a circle for that one instance. So moving on, I'm in a coven. I am an initiate into a coven, and the coven I am in is the Songs of the Wood. I will only give you guys a very brief idea of my coven, because there are things I cannot talk about that only those who are initiated can know. But this is all information you can find online about my coven. It's not, some big name, worldwide known coven or a tradition, but we're solid. We're good. So Witchbox actually is probably the best way to find us, or any other coven for that matter. So yeah, Songs of the Wood, we're a small coven. Our tradition is the Celtic traditionalist Gwynedd, and we have the Celtic traditionalist Gwynedd, or CTG. It's a tradition that kind of started as a hereditary family tradition with Lady Gwen Thompson, and then was research and writings of Lord Gwydion were added, and it's based on two sources. The first is, I guess, our Book of Shadows, and then other stuff from the New York Welsh traditionalist Gwydion, NYWTG, or the Welsh tradition. Let me tell you, it's a lot. It's a lot of words, especially since we're Welsh with a little bit of Celtic, and so the terminology, the pronunciation, it's a little bit of a tongue twister, so say that 3 times fast. The Welsh tradition that we draw from is not an acknowledged member of the New England Covens of traditional witches. We just decided a long time ago to respectfully not be a part of them, so if it's, I'm not trying to claim any lineage that doesn't belong to me. That's not my interest here. So yeah, that's my Coven, a little bit of history, but mainly, like I said, we, follow Celtic and Welsh folklore, like the Mabinogion, and we meet up. Every once in a while we open an outer court to the public to let people know that if they're interested in joining, now's the time to let us know, and it's great. I want to say that we are based in like the New York, New Jersey area. Our tradition is a little bit more spread out. There's people in Salem, there's people in California, and elsewhere, I believe. But it's nice. Our coven is nice. I am, this is like a little private history, like personal and private. I, way back when I was first looking into joining a coven and learning about witchcraft, and I sent a notice via Witchfox to this coven and the Songs of the Wood, because they were close and they sounded like something I wanted to do. I've been very interested in Celtic and particularly Welsh folklore and traditions for a long time. That's not my only interest, and I know it's, you know what, I'll go into the whole like traditions and history and ancestors thing, because it might seem a little odd for me as a Black and Hispanic woman being interested in the Welsh witchcraft tradition, but that'll be another video. I sent in a note. I heard back from the then high priestess, and we talked for a little bit, and then things kind of fell off, and I wound up, staying solitary and then joining the circle I mentioned earlier. For a long time, things kind of went downhill from there, and I found myself solitary, completely solitary, with many new friends for a while. And then my cousin, a literal blood family member, contacted me on Facebook like, hey, since when are you a witch? And we got to talking, and then shortly after that, he was like, oh, my coven is opening up their outer court. Would you be interested? Like, just, no pressure or anything, just asking. And I was like, sure, what the heck? And he was like, yeah, it's, Celtic, mostly Welsh tradition, and come and find out. And so I did, and I met with the high priestess, and lo and behold, it's the Songs of the Wood coven, the same coven I had applied to years ago. And there were some shifts, and people moved, and it just so happened when I had applied, like, all those big shifts and people literally moving across the country, were happening at that point. Though it wasn't the time. It wasn't the right time for me then. But it's been the right time for me now. And I'm very happy. It's a great community. I think I'm segue into why I like being in a coven. The community aspect. I am a person that likes community. I like talking to like-minded people who enjoy the same things that I do about those things. I like doing those things with those people. And this sounds really vague, but we're talking about like practicing witchcraft and magic and Welsh and Celtic folklore and that kind of thing. So it just fit. I wasn't sure if it would, and I'll be honest, I was a little nervous because there's, a family member in this coven, but it's been working out really great, and I'm glad to have that community. Another thing that I like, and the learning process. With a coven, you get a tradition to follow. Unless it's a brand new coven and they're building their tradition, building their path, there's either oral or written or maybe both of tradition to follow. They have kind of like a lesson plan for you to follow to learn about the tradition and how they practice and why they practice what they do practice. And, it's structured, it's timely, like you get stuff, new lessons, I guess, for an example, in a paced manner. And it can be self-paced or it can be paced by whatever the tradition says it should be, and that differs coven to coven. But I like that. I was a person who liked school as far as learning and having like that structure, like today we're going to learn this, tomorrow we're going to learn that, tomorrow we're going to learn, and then we're having a test on this stuff that you learned in this time. I did not and still do not enjoy tests, but like just the kind of like the need to go over stuff again to refresh your memory, that I like. So this is kind of similar, whereas being completely solitary kind of removes that structure. You have to build your own structure and your own pace with learning, and I was that was definitely, I think, the place where I was floundering as far as being completely and totally solitary. I knew what stuff I wanted to learn, but it's like, what are the good sources? And then like sticking to a pattern of learning, figuring out how to teach myself these things. Am I retaining the information? How do I test myself? So that was difficult, even with the internet. I started out solitary and I learned a lot of the basic stuff about witchcraft and paganism, the umbrella of paganism, and even, what do you call it, the African diasporic traditions, and a little bit of shamanism as well, because there are a lot of internet self-paced courses and things like that, and I found some decent ones with some good sources that I could check up on. But once you go beyond that, it's like it's a little harder to keep yourself on track when you're not used to it. You're used to school telling you when you're going to study and that kind of thing. So I like that structure. Having the hierarchy, I guess, I enjoy as well. And it's just like there's someone or some ones I can go to that know more than I do, that I can ask questions of, and because they've been doing this longer, and I also trust them because of the things we've done together. I can trust that they will steer me in the right direction or give me as best an answer as they can while being honest about it. And that's honestly just lovely to have in life, period. So I like that. Coven versus solitary is not really a thing I have to worry about too much. With my particular coven, they're not super strict. I'm pretty much allowed to do, magic and whatnot on my own. Because, yes, we come together and we raise power and all of that stuff. And sometimes, we're all going through similar things, like money issues at a certain point. And it's just like, you know what, let's just get together and we'll do that magic for that. Because we all need, a little bit of extra this week or this month. But there's that doesn't happen all the time. There are times when I need something specifically for me, and I am not forbidden from doing what I need to do in my own home. And if I was, I would not be in this coven because that's ridiculous. And like, how are you gonna school me, or how are you gonna corral me from doing what I like? They're not here. They're not here. So they could tell me no, but that's not an issue. So, there are things that I ask before doing of my high priestess and high priest, just out of respect, mostly. And there are things that mostly have to do with not, mixing up traditions that they wouldn't like me to do. Like, okay, I wouldn't do this anyway, but you know what? You shouldn't be learning this completely other tradition. Like, you shouldn't be joining a fairy tradition, coven or group while you're learning from us. Like, that's a really, really good way of mixing up traditions and, like, messing up what you're supposed to be learning. So that just makes sense to me. And, later in the future, if I should so decide, once I get to a certain level, then that's fine. So yeah, I just want to, I guess, really quickly address a couple of issues some people have had with covens. Being told what to do, kind of like following someone else's rules. I'm okay with that. I like to sit in the background. There are covens out there that are like, when you join, your aim should be to become a high priestess or a high priest or whatever. Your aim should be to start your own coven. I'm not that girl. I'm not that woman. Maybe one day, but I'm perfectly happy where I am, learning and growing and practicing our religion together, basically practicing our craft, and then having my own thing. They're not that rigid. Being in a spiritual rut, I don't know, I can't really address this because I'm still learning. It happens. I think it helps that there are other people, again, that I can trust, that I can go to and ask questions of. Sometimes, I'm being really honest, the randomest things occur to me, and I'm just like, how do you feel about blah, blah, blah? And, like, we can sit down and have this, like, philosophical discussion that sparks a whole new interest in a whole new path within the grove that we are in. So that is absolutely lovely. I think some of these others, like abusive behavior or power tripping, cult-like atmosphere, predatory behavior, not getting along with other members or fighting between members. These are things that personally I have experienced in almost any group of people I've been in. It doesn't matter. In the circle, the open circle that I was in, that is honestly a lot of that is why I eventually left, even though that's not how it started. Um, at one of my previous jobs, there was that. So it's not, in family, that shit happens too. Family gatherings. Um, so it's just like once that clicked in my head, I'm like, one, I have experience dealing with that, any of those issues, um, and I know how to spot them and then remove myself from the situation as calmly and as safely as possible. Um, and that's all I can do. I can't. This is not that video. I can't give that advice to anyone else. Maybe I'll do another one later. If anyone's interested, let me know in the comments below. I guess the only other thing is, the ritual nudity. That's something you can ask about. There's also certain spiritual philosophies, cosmology that certain people believe. It's different, honestly, with every coven, with every group. So I think when you're going in, particularly if it's a coven that has an outer court, like, you're testing the waters. You're trying to see if you guys will complement each other, both as people and as, a spiritual group. So that's, stuff you should ask about. That's stuff they should be letting you know early on before, like, you're initiated. And just go with it. And that leads me to, what to or how to look for a coven that suits you. What do you like? Like, there's, basic witchcraft books and things on the internet. What calls to you? I like the connection with nature aspect. I like I said earlier, Celtic and Welsh mythology and folklore. I liked the idea of using the elements to an extent, and also like interpersonal things. I am good with following the rules and following someone else, being a follower, but I'm not, an empty-headed idiot. So I don't want a cult. I don't want, to do what I say, not what I do kind of thing. I am looking for leadership that I can respect, that is open and honest with me, and like maybe make a list of the things, both like spiritually what you're looking for and also like interpersonally as a group. And like I mentioned, think about your previous experiences with family, with work, with sports teams that you may have been on, any other groups that you've been in, and like pinpoint the personality traits that you like when working with a group, because it still applies here. This practical interpersonal knowledge applies in this as well. Make those lists, keep that stuff in mind if you don't need to write it down. Where to look? Witch Fox. If you've never been to Witch Fox, please don't be put off by the really old website. People still update, and it's an awesome place to find groups in particular, but also events. So beyond Witch Fox, Facebook groups and Yahoo groups, Facebook events as well. More of the newer modern groups use Facebook, and still many use Yahoo groups as well. But also look for events, like your local events. I say local because who wants to be traveling several hours as I travel several hours? Who wants to be traveling several hours just to meet up for stuff? I don't know, maybe some of you, but if you don't, um, you want to look for groups in your area. So like, if I'm in New York City, so New York City Coven, um, or New York City pagan shops. A lot of them know who the local groups and covens are. Um, if you're looking for open circle, the same thing. And yeah, so put your state, put your city or your town or county and search on Facebook, search on Google and see what comes up, and then see if they have open stuff, things you can attend. A lot of the pagan shops have things where the local communities show up. Some of them have covens attached to them. It's a coven run shop, or coven leader run shop, or coven member. You get my point, right? So go to them. They may have some kind of open networking mixer thing. Get to know people. The Pagan Pride Days events, those are great for meeting people. Some covens show up to that, but if not, the various shops and people that do workshops and talks and presentations, and just have stalls at the Pagan Pride events, they can let you know, because some of them might be part of a coven or some other a witchy circle or other pagan group, and get to know people. Go to enough, start to hook up. You get word of mouth, and then after a while, you'll learn who your local covens are, and how you can join. You might meet some members, and if you keep in touch, they'll let you know when they're having an outer court or an open circle or some other ways to see how you can see how they interact with each other, and go from there. Or you could just straight up ask them, if you meet somebody, hey, I'm looking to join a coven. Are you guys looking for new members? And you'll get a yes or no, and maybe you can have a conversation about that. And when you go to their particular events, whether open circle or outer court and things like that, you want to ask questions like some of the ones I mentioned, but also some are specific types of memberships. Some are only women, some are only men, some are family oriented. Not everybody wants little kids running around in their rituals. I've experienced that. I don't have a problem with it. Others do. I've seen it. So ask. Some have skyclad rituals, your ritual nudity, and some people are okay with that, others are not. Ask. Pay attention to how the people act and interact amongst each other. You really don't want to join a coven where they're having infighting at the time. People like to make you choose sides. You're there to learn and have a spiritual experience, not deal with the drama. Unless that's you, that is definitely not me. So I don't know. But the thing is, like, to keep an eye out. How does the energy feel in the circle and amongst the people? Do you feel good being around them? I mean, nervousness and a little anxiety is understandable. So you might have to push through that, but fear, disgust, strong negative emotions like that, these are not your people. Or maybe they're doing stuff that you do not value. Their values are not your values. Some covens have sexual rituals between members. I can't speak on that. I know it's not something I want to do. I mean, never mind. But is that something you value? Is that something you're okay with, or are you not okay with that? Some groups have values that I am not okay with. There are some groups out there that look down upon members that are persons of color, or women, or men for that matter. Like the male members are seen as less than, and that's not something I can get down with, so I don't. That kind of thing. You want to see if what they told you is what they do, and that's pretty much it. Honestly, bottom line, personal opinion, being in a coven is no worse or better than being solitary, or or in like an open circle or temporary circle. They have their good and bad, and I've experienced both, and I am overall happy with my experiences and how life has turned out with them. I'm happy where I am right now. Just in case any of my coven members are watching this, I'm happy where I am right now. I'm joking. I am happy where I am right now, ecstatically, especially at this moment. But so yeah, that is what a coven is, what a coven means to me, a little bit about my coven, and how you can find a coven and what you should look for. Thank you for watching. This is Lachette from Scarlet Moon Creations. You can find my social media and the links down below, as well as my Etsy shop, so do check it out. I have a winter clearance sale going on right now. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.